This is the main reason for building this community and talking about this in forefront. So today we are going to talk about how ADHD is not just a learning disorder. There is so much more to that. It's just how somebody's brain function differently. Okay, so we will talk about education system, how parents and society really changes the way these young people look at themselves growing up, who are not neurotypical, who do not understand why we are doing in this way, why there has to be a certain period of learning time, and then has to be a test, and if I do not perform in that, then how that's supposed to tell anybody about my intelligence and my capabilities. Okay, so I wrote down exactly what I felt, and I'm just going to read that word by word, verbatim, because that's so raw. So, as a child, I always struggled to concentrate for long periods of time. That's just basic ADHD thing. My mother noticed this pattern very early, even before I understood myself. In very early when I was in elementary and stuff. She initially assumed I was simply a distracted child, like many others. Instead of forcing traditional studying, she made learning interactive through games and playful methods. So my mother was 19 when I was born. So she had a lot of growing up to do herself. She was a child when I was there, so we grew up like that, and she's like my anchor, my everything, and the closest relationship of my life because of those years. Because when I was seeing other parents scolding their children, my mind would play with me and make life interesting. So this approach helped me perform very well academically in my early school years. Yeah, I was top of the class because in early school years nobody expect anybody to sit down and learn anything. Like those behavioral things weren't like I would say etiquette that children follow. So I would just run around here and there and learn things, and yeah, test would not feel like tests. Okay, despite not having a strong educational background herself, my mother was deeply caring and committed to helping me learn. So what happened when I grew out of that early stage and came into my second, third, sort of, not even second, but I guess third was the year, because social studies, science were introduced in subject, and my mother felt like she's not educated enough herself, and she would not do a great job teaching me all those subjects and stuff. So she wanted me to have a proper tuition teacher or classes or something. At that point, my parents decided to arrange external academic support through tuition classes and home tutors. I've done both. I've done all sorts of tuition classes, and I think the amount of tuition classes I used to like change, the amount of teachers and tutors would come in. Some of them would just time pass because they wanted to get paid, and some of them would like, yeah, but she's just not the girl who would follow any system. At that point, the transition from interactive learning at home to traditional tuition classes felt emotionally degrading and disengaging. That's so true. I still remember those feelings because I would go into a class and I would see these like students or children just sitting into their books, like, and they're so concentrated, and it just depresses me instantly. Like, I cannot be a part of this group. No matter what I do, it's just not who I am. I cannot sit and learn like that. Because, first of all, I never really understood why we need to learn these things. Like, bio made sense to me when I was in 10th class, but before that, everything felt like there was no teacher who could. I never really encountered a good teacher who could really explain the motive. Like today, I can explain the motive of every subject to my younger siblings, and like why science is important, why social studies is important, and stuff. Okay, tuition classes at that time followed a rigid one size fits all teaching approach. I think a lot of tuition classes still feels like that. Things are changing in some areas, but not all the areas. And I really like, there is a lot that is happening in education. But at the same time, we are making very big efforts not in the right direction. That's what I feel. Now the whole socio-economic background comes in picture, because our parents were paying really their hard-earned money. Like, the parents were sacrificing everything. Like, I don't remember growing up my parents, or even in my peers' parents planning trips to go to, places, and like the enjoyment of life was really not a big thing at in those years. The parents were doing their best because they really wanted their children to study and to get out of that socioeconomic background they are in. And like, in my household, studies were like, every single person would meet me and their first question would be like, what did you study today? How was school? What are you doing? And it became such a rat race at that time, and they were not wrong. I can completely understand where they were coming from, their enthusiasm, their like whole pressure thing coming from, because they really wanted their children to do something out of their life which is more meaningful to what they have been doing. So that's why the whole pressure, like, now you do not, so as a young kid who do not fits good in school, neither in tuition classes, and at the same time feeling such pressure from parents and grandparents, like you have to study and achieve something, and you have to be this and that. Like, my dad and me had such, because he is stubborn like me, so he would be like, she would be magistrate, or one day he would be like, she would be an engineer, and I would like, I just want to be a horse and run wild in the fields. that's what that's what life felt like in those days. So let's move ahead. So tuition classes were big no. And I would bunk. I started bunking tuition when I did not even know what bunking means. When I was in third standard, I would just take my bike, cycle to go to tuition, and then I would just like convince a bunch of other kids. I was such a bad influence, like, we should all go to the park and I was living in such a nice place, and everybody would be, yeah, let's go, because that time no teacher would call your parents. It was not even a thing. So we would just go and ride bicycles in the park. I was such a hyperactive kid. I would jump walls to meet my friend, and I would do all sorts of athletic activities, which one kid wasn't supposed to do. And I can make another video on the things that I've done in my childhood. Large group of children were taught together in the same way as a school classrooms, with little attention to individual learning styles. Of course, if one kid is not performing or not doing good, the teacher would call parents, the school teacher would call parents, the tuition teacher would call parents, and they're like, your kid is not doing good. And then parents will really beat the crap out of that kid, like, legit. That's the reality of Indian households. We all know it. I have gotten a good fucking beating out of my mother a lot of times when I was a kid. Not because of studies, but I used to do other things to other people. When I was a kid, I was a very bad bully. So, but still, like this happens to my friends all the time. Like, their parents would really go serious. In my studying journey, two people were very much engaged in what I'm doing, is my grandfather and my mother. So these were the two people who would just pay really close attention to what I'm doing day to day. My father would just come once in a while, and then he would have, because he, like, of course, that's from his ADHD. If you cannot control something, you have to detach yourself from it, because you cannot half-ass anything. So either he would like go on a rampage of making me learn some big chapters, or like solving maths questions, or he would not ask what I'm doing, because that's how he secured his peace at that time. There was no personalized engagement or effort to make learning interesting or adaptive for children who struggle with attention and concentration. No, it was considered laziness, that you are lazy and you do not really give two shits about your future. My school year experiences wasn't good from academic perspective, yes. As either I wouldn't participate in class activities because it wouldn't stimulate my brain enough, and that's why teacher didn't like me a lot. That happened throughout my school journey from first standard to 12th, because I am not interested in silly games, because I'm not having fun, and because I know she could do a better job than this. Yeah, she could really make an effort, but she wouldn't, or he wouldn't, and I would like, I'm not gonna just do it for the sake of doing it. There was a time when I really performed good in school, and I will tell you when that happened. It was around 8th, ninth, and 10th, because that was the time I felt the pressure that now numbers are not the numbers, and the rank is not just like it has value. It's not just like I don't care. It is associated with your, like, it is a pride, it's valor, it's associated with your worth in classroom. So I was studying in boarding school, and the kids who were scoring a lot of marks were the popular ones. And then I wanted to study for a completely different reason, and I scored really good marks at that point of time. And I was studying, like I used to study whole night. So that's what I started doing after 5th class. I understood that the school system will not work for me. So I made my own system. Okay, then it'll come later on. My school year experiences wasn't good. And once there was a teacher who argued with my mother because she can't believe that I can learn 5 to 15 tables, like tables from 5 to 15 in one day. She badgered me a lot, and I got so scared of her I stopped going to school. I was in 3rd standard at that time, and I still know her face and everything. So I was really good at maths because my grandfather would spend a lot of his time, daily basis, to teach me maths and stuff, and he made maths interesting. So if maths was like, yeah, I'm not learning, I'm solving problem, and there are so many patterns and stuff. So that was interesting, and I started engaging more with it. So they started engaging more with me. So he used to give me very long multiplication divisions and stuff, and then came a point where that Viva thing happens where you have to recite tables, endless tables like poems. And I did that, and I did that flawlessly. And she thought that I was cheating. I was in 3rd standard, standing in front of her with my both my hands back of my at like in the back, and she is accusing me like a what how old I would be at that time of cheating. And I was not the kid who would cry in front of anybody, so I did not said anything. I felt so heartbroken. I came home and I cried in front of my mother. She went to school with me next day, and she confronted that teacher, like she confronted that teacher. It's like, she's not the kid who would cheat or lie, though later on in my life I started doing both. But at that time, my mother felt like, you guys really do not give two shits about what your behavior is doing to the kids. And she then made a full-fledged complaint. That's why I'm saying my mother is the reason that I can do anything in my life, because she really like boost up my confidence and my self-esteem in those early years. Okay. I created a wall between the school and me. I just know that their system won't work for me, so I created my own, and that worked pretty good till college. I wasn't top student, but I was going through. So yeah, I understood that their system won't work for me. Whatever they are trying to do, like how they are learning, how the other kids are learning, it's not how I will learn. So I was such a backbencher in my school days, but I never sit at the back. I always used to sit in the front, in the front seat. And doesn't really matter, like confidence is everything. I would sit in the front seat clueless, like I don't know anything, but I won't go at the back. No matter what I'm doing in school, when the exams will come, before exams I will just take the whole syllabus at once and then do it in 2 3 days, whatever I can do, and then give the exams. Yep. This was the journey till school and college. College I did in COVID first wave, so a lot of it happened at home, and I'm glad for that, because I really did not like going to college, and like I did not liked that the whole thing with college. Yep. But I liked working a lot. I knew that I'm somebody who would really thrive in professional environment, and I would love to work and create something and all learn. Like I would out of the learning phase. I did not want to study and learn more. So I started working and in the initial years I was working with small teams, and I had a lot of autonomy and wasn't working with a lot of managers and bosses, so I was accountable for some results, and that's it. But as I joined a big firm and moved cities, things were became very uncertain, and I could feel that I'm lacking in something which is making me bad at this job. I wasn't sure what was that until one day I just couldn't concentrate. And this is real. Like one day I just couldn't concentrate. I felt very overwhelmed. I couldn't like I couldn't get the grip of things, and I thought I'm losing my mind. And in that in those days I started googling my symptoms, because I was like, what's happening? Am I having anxiety? Is this is what anxiety feels like? I just put all those symptoms in Google to understand what is it, and they are the symptoms of undiagnosed neurodivergence. And then I did a lot of self test for diagnosing ADHD. I realized, oh, I do have ADHD. And then later on, I got professionally diagnosed. And now I think I should be the poster child for ADHD. So, this is the learning journey that I had to go through to understand at the age of 22 that I have neurodivergence. And there are so many stops, crossroads in this journey where somebody could have helped me with this. Like it was very visible, the torment and the struggle that I was going through. And kids around me, there were other kids around me who had neurodivergence. Now I know, like, those kids, like now I know when I talk to my mom and I'm like, Mama, I had this classmate, I feel he had this, and that's why he was always acting this way and all. And their parents weren't doing anything as well. Like I would still say that my situation was far more better because my mother was there to support me in so many ways. But there were other kids who were really struggling on so many levels, and you can see them. You can see a child going through all sorts of vulnerable emotions, but parents are so used to of not taking it seriously. And then there is this one thing which I feel, how you can even say that, whereas like, oh, he'll just forget when he'll grow up. No, that's not, like, of course I have never forgotten anything. Those memories, bad emotions, bad experiences, they embark in your brain and they really change how you look at yourself. So, in the initial years, when everybody was calling me hyperactive, my teachers would complain to my mother that she's very hyperactive, and whenever we try to, like break her pattern or something, she's very aggressive and like that. And then for a long time, I just thought that I'm bad at studying and I'm good at sports. And I tried to be really good at sports later on. And then some health issues happened. I could not pursue that for a longer period of time. And then there was a time where I thought, like, now I'm bad at studies and couldn't perform in sports. So, what future entails for me? For me, like, I created boundaries for me where I was like, okay, so I am like, oh, I can only do this. I can only achieve till 80, 85. Like, I'm not the student who can go till 90. And that is such a bullshit thing. Like, I could easily get 90 if I would have had the right teachers or even the right system to judge me. So, why did it take me until 22 to understand my own brain, and whose fault was that? So, if I have to say, education system has failed neurodivergent kids a lot. Parents, of course, have to take some of the blame, but it's like a diabetic person living a life like a normal person, never realizing that they need to cater to their needs specifically. They have to change the system. And now, even we are doing a lot, like we are making, because people wants to see change. So there are a lot of things happening in the education system, and how kids are going to school and what they are doing, and teachers and parents are so like attentive to the wholesome growth of their children rather than making them bookworms. Because in life, every sort of situation. You need to be prepared from the early age for every sort of situation. But with that, there needs to be specific curriculum where we can judge neurodivergent kids differently, how we judge neurotypical kids, and we can really utilize and engage their brain. The major part where the major failure of education system is because neurodivergent brains are so massively like it's like a ram, which it's like having a freaking supercomputer and you are just doing excel on it. You're understanding my point? The pattern recognition, the understanding, the hypothesis building, amount of diverse learning that they can have, it's so much bigger than your generic education parameters. So we are really not utilizing those genius brains. So we have to make sure that if a kid is coming to school, we are stimulating them in the right way where they can engage more, understand their capabilities more, and do what they are, like, supposed to do in life. What we can do today is we cannot change the education system in one day, but we can build the community stronger and stronger. People who have dedicated their lives to understanding neurodivergence and its impact on life. And I would really want to make sure that all those voices are heard, and that's the plan for future. We would have those parents, we would have those children, those we would have those parents, those kids, those teachers, and the counselors who deal with this today. We will go into some serious and dark things in future about how does this impact your relationships, and like ADHD, undiagnosed ADHD, undiagnosed neurodivergence can lead up to addiction and major mental health issues like depression and stuff. But that's the battle that we'll face some another day. Today, I want you to leave on a happy note because things sometimes turn out well. It's such an enlightening experience that at the age of 22, you are like, oh, I'll see myself from a new lens and I'll know me again. So it's a journey towards self-awareness. We are all on. And I guess I'm bid you farewell. See you in a few days. Bye. Have a nice day.